SB 553 that just passed in the state of California. It was actually the ironic timing of September 30th, where Governor Newsom passed the law, which of course went public on October 1st, which happens to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So, talk about the irony and being right on time. So I do like to welcome the guests, and if there's anything that you would like to share, who you are, what your title is, and where you're from, and what you're looking to get out of this training this evening, and then we'll roll right into it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Suha. I'm a project coordinator in the biotech industry, and I'm here to learn everything I can about what we have to present for this. I know very little, so I'm ready to educate myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and I am elated that you are here to absorb and ask away.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Pleasure to meet you. I am Shannon Aguayo. I am the Director of HR for a manufacturing company in Illinois. I cannot wait to hear all about this because I know it's coming our direction.
Indeed it is. Thank you for acknowledging that. California is one of the leading states as it relates to domestic violence laws, programs, and legislation. And yes, once we kick something off, other states do follow because they see the value that it brings. We'll dive right into it. This is obviously something that is mandated by the state. It is just for California right now, but it's under OSHA. OSHA is a federal organization, Occupational Safety and Health, right? And there are many mandatory programs that need to be in place. One of them being the Work Injury and Illness Prevention Program, and also a workplace violence policy. This particular bill covers a workplace violence prevention plan. So we are actually leveling up here. What that means: domestic violence is a sensitive topic that is very existent in today's world. Although we have been marching and picketing and fighting for rights for over centuries, we still are faced with the sad fact that it occurs every single day. During COVID, domestic violence became a pandemic within a pandemic. The statistics were through the roof, almost doubling, okay? So I just want to put that out there. Now, what people don't think about, and what has been happening gradually, which is why I'm so happy that Cal OSHA stepped up and stepped in, is that 1 out of 3 women are in an abusive relationship. Domestic violence is a very broad term. There are many things that fall under that: stalking, emotional abuse, narcissistic behaviors, financial abuse, verbal abuse, the list goes on. And it bleeds into the workplace. Okay, a lot of people really don't think about that, but the sad fact is that it does. And statistics have also shown that most workplace violence actually is domestic violence spillover. Many people believe that it's like peer to peer. It's really not. It really is not. And I'm just going to shed some light on workplace homicide. Over 80% of workplace homicide is domestic violence spillover. Okay. Now, what I have done is I have pulled together hours and hours of research, which I'm not going to share today. I'm just going to keep it very high level. And I'll share some things with you to include the screen so you know where the sources are coming from. And I just want to say a couple of things first, and which is the exemptions. You are exempt from having the mandate of incorporating the workplace violence prevention plan in your industry or place of employment if you work in the healthcare industry, if you work in law enforcement to include state prison, and if you are a small corporation that does not have public accessibility. Those are the only exceptions that this law is allowing.
Do they indicate what is a small company? Is it 25 employees or less?
The caveat is that you could be as small or as medium-sized, large company. And the question, is it accessible to the public? For example, if you have a candle making, soap making space, can the public come into your entity? If you're doing it from home, probably not. If you're doing it in a storefront where people can buy and purchase, then yes. So if it's a somebody at the register and a cook in the back,
Right.
2 people,
Okay.
you need to have it.
So you could be 2 people and that defines small.
Yes.
Okay.
That defines mandatory.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So there's a lot actually to meeting the SB 553 compliance and audit readiness, which by the way, if I didn't tell you by now, it is July 1st, 2024, which is right around the corner. Again, this bill was signed September 30th, went into effect October 1st, and we are being given just 9 short months to put this into effect, okay? And there's not a lot of information out there. You really have to understand what the current requirements are and then what needs to be incorporated into that. And again, I've done the extensive research. I've done a lot. I have a lot of information. So if you want to ask any questions, by all means, please go ahead.
Right now I just have a comment. So you said 9 months. Is that not birthing something new? Just saying.
Absolutely. Okay, just understanding, like I said, how you are exempt. Now I want to give you some of the musts. Some of the musts is building relevant policies and procedures that are required within this mandate. Okay. Creating channels for reporting violent incidences and threats. Some of the forms that are mandatory right now are applicable in these circumstances as well. Also, ongoing annual training is required for this. Specifically, when I'm saying this on the violence prevention plan.
I have a question, if you could pause right there. So if there's annual training that is required, how are they tracking that? Is that something that needs to be reported to OSHA or Cal OSHA or like OSHA in general? Is there like a sheet, a sign-in sheet, hours? What does that look like?
So it's actually based on what your corporation is already doing. Treat it like any other training, specifically if you already have sexual harassment training that is required annually, you would do this in the same fashion. For me personally, annual training for something like this, I happen to go on the side, a little bit on the extreme side, and it's not really extreme anymore because it happens so much where it's active shooter. Okay, an active shooter comes in. Sitting down in front of a computer to get annual training is one thing, but actually having drills, actually having something like, yeah, a drill. There's no better word for it. Just
Wow,
a
you
drill.
took it a step further, right? Because sexual harassment training is typically like in the classroom and online, and you get the little pass fail, whatever, and it goes in the file. Like this brings it to a whole nother level. It's
Oh
not your
yeah,
problem until it ends up in the workplace, right?
that's right. And it's funny that you say that because I have this little cliche phrase that I say, which is domestic violence isn't your problem until it clocks in, right?
100%.
Yeah, I think it's very rewarding when you're confidently compliant, when you are ready, when you are inspection ready, and you feel very confident on passing any audit that comes your way. It's very rewarding. Again, back to the annual training. Yes, having drills, having mock inspections, mock audits, checks and balances in place. This I definitely can, I don't want to say alter, but it can definitely impact your current culture. See, the beauty with something that's so brand new and that is as impactful as this, preventing violence in the workplace and heightening that area of domestic violence, is that it affects so many people in the workplace and you don't really realize it, meaning production, meaning other people's time, other people's safety. There's a true ripple effect that takes place when domestic violence enters the workplace.
Absolutely. And they can walk in without security knowing, and you could be in the middle of an audit or in the middle of a meeting, and then something happens because you have a disgruntled husband or whatever. Everything goes downhill. And what do? Like we have these active shooter drills with our children in our schools. What are we doing in the workplace?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And same thing, right? We have fire drills at work and we have the egress route and the place where we meet to huddle and do head count, make sure everybody's accounted for. Exactly. If we don't have actual drills for something as significant as this, we might be hurting ourselves. Also, the fines. The fines, if you are not compliant, they start at $18,000. So if you're a smaller company, you definitely want to take advantage of having this in place, because a smaller company may not be able to handle that type of a fine.
Do the fines, is it defined by like how many employees you have? Is it per employee? It's just starting 18,000.
Starting 18,000.
Holy cow. This is, take it seriously.
I want to share just a few more statistics, and then I'll share my screen to just give you some things that give you some data points that I've collected over the past week or so. But right now, from the Department of Labor in 2022, 2.8 million non-fatal workplace injuries occurred. I have statistics here showing that there was total cases involving 10 to 15 days time off. Domestic violence, so for time off, it was 10 to 15 days.
So are you saying that in a domestic violence situation, the person that incurred or endured the domestic violence had 10 to 15 days out of work because of that situation?
Yes, it was days away from work. So 2.2 million of those 2.8 million that were non-fatal, 2.2 million involved taking 10 to 15 days off of work. Okay.
That's a huge impact. And aren't there other federal, is it like Ezra or something like that? There's another federal mandated law that supports the time off. No,
Most workplace violence and homicides at work are domestic violence spillover. The National Safety Council estimates cost of workplace violence at $171 billion. Out of a survey conducted, 94% of corporate security directors ranked domestic violence as the highest security problem. I can tell you firsthand that it's very unfortunate, but domestic violence is one of the scariest calls to respond to as a police officer. So, as such a sensitive topic, but it is a very heavy fact that we have to deal with. And now, thanks to Cal OSHA as our ally, be prepared for and put some preventative measures in place. One of the biggest things I really want to hone in on here is that corporations, or they don't have to be a huge corporation, a business can now file a restraining order against the perpetrator on behalf of the employee / victim.
Is this specific to California?
Yes.
I was gonna say the act that I was thinking of, I thought it was federal, but it's Illinois specific, and that's why I'm familiar with it. It's called VESA. It is Victims Economic Security and Safety Act. Sorry, but it also supports the victims, and it's a specific time period. Sorry about that.
Wow. See, that's amazing. So that's the other point that I wanted to bring up, and thank you for raising that awareness, is that every state has an option to do whatever they want. Really, let's break it down to any company across the nation, depending on their culture, what they want to represent, what they want to support, what they want to consider as a protected class, what type of benefits they want to offer their employees. A lot of this is preferential. This is the only state now that is mandating it, but I have found plenty of other companies across the nation, New York, Chicago, Utah, Michigan, you name it. They are starting to incorporate domestic violence into their current policies and procedures, because it is again being recognized century after century, the impact and increase that is occurring across the nation.
Tua, do you have something that you want to share? Do you have anything you want to say yet?
Oh no, I'm listening and learning. I'm still shocked by the statistics. Requirement for businesses to have, or is it still an optional thing?
No,
Until
Cal
July.
OSHA is specific to California.
I see.
It is a mandate which goes into effect July 1st.
Yeah, I'm over in California,
Oh, okay.
so this will apply to me.